Hey, remember when I said I didn't know what to do? I found what to do. It's been on. I didn't realize it until moments after I said that. Like, found what to do. And just to get it out of the way, we're gonna do fishing first. Here the thesis. Could it be? Yes, you must be the gleaner I've heard so much about. Let me get straight to the point. This is pretty much the Shadow Barriers. I mean the Endwalker stuff, crafting, gathering stuff. Oh, where are my manners? Allow me to introduce myself first. My name is Telika... Tequila Tia, and I'm an associate professor of the Faculty of Etherology here. To tell the truth, I'm in a bit of a bind. I'm scheduled to make a major presentation at a conference in the near future, but as ashamed as I am to admit, I've not been able to get enough data to properly finish my thesis. If I'm unable to prove the worth of my research, then my funding is all but certain to dry up, as you can see. The stakes are high. You, you have the look of an adept angler about you, am I right? If so, you could just be the person I need. This section here, this section here is one I rented out for my work. Might I interest you in taking a look? Sure. Impressive, isn't it? Ooh, I bet you've never laid eyes on such a fine fish tank before. Sadly, as you can see, it's entirely devoid of fish. Anyhow, I suppose I should tell you about my work. You see, I research water veins. Not just any old ones, mind you, but those that carry ether, not unlike the life stream or the etheric currents in the wind. Life is naturally drawn to areas abundant in ether, which is why you might observe that popular fishing spots are often also ether rich. My research focuses in particular on veins which carry especially high concentrations of ether. Currents commonly known as spectral currents. Oh, we know all about those. Are you perchance familiar with the phenomenon? I've seen one before. I've seen several, actually. I've caused one, actually, one time. I will admit it. Oh, I'd expect nothing less from a veteran gleaner. I must say, it's always nice to meet someone familiar with the subject of my life's work. In any event, the most important point to remember is just how important ether currents are for aquatic life. To look at it the other way, it is possible to identify how strong the local ether currents are by studying the fish and other aquatic life in any given area. And that's where we come full circle. I require specimens of fish from various bodies of water to confirm my hypothesis regarding underwater ether currents. And there's the rub. The areas most worth researching happen to be the hardest to reach. Of course, I would not be adverse for risking the journey myself, if only there were not for my condition. You are scared of the water. Yeah, yes, I suppose I should explain. Put simply, I have long suffered from a particularly nasty case of ether sickness. Why, I can't even use the Ethernet or any sort of teleportation magic's quite annoying when your work partially depends on such things, to say the least. I know. An etherologist who can't stomach ether? I wouldn't believe it were I not living this nightmare myself. Perhaps you are skeptical? I have an idea. Follow me to the Etherite Plaza and I'll show you just how bad I get. I believe you. I believe you. I assure you, I believe you, man. You don't have to do that. Ah, there you are. Alright, watch closely now. Ugh. You see, I'm feeling so queasy, it's all due to hold down the contents of my stomach. The whole world, it is spinning. Somebody make it stop. What is this? Forgive me. Well, there you have it. My condition has manifested itself all over the ground for you. I'd say, are you quite alright? Professor Neely, I see your conditions as bad as that, or one would think you'd avoid a place like this. And you, are you perchance assisting with his research? Yeah. The boy may suffer terrible ether sickness, but as a scholar, he has as much potential as anyone I've seen. You develop an eye for these things when you've been in academia for as long as I have. But I must be on my way. I very much look forward to reading your finished thesis. Did I mention that I don't handle pressure particularly well? I've barely written the introduction to my paper, and Professor Nail is already selling it up to his peers. How can I personally live up to his expectations? Well, just tell him. Like, you shouldn't expect that much of me. Incidentally, Professor Nail is one of the leading authorities in the world of etherology. Some would even say he's the equal of Master Matoya. And for some reason, he seems to have taken a liking to me. He's the one who pushed for the school to allow me to form my own research team. As the first and trial phase of the program, to support young scholars, otherwise a honorary associate professor such as myself would never be able to conduct such an ambitious project. Yet I run the risk of losing everything if I don't turn my potential into actual results at the upcoming conference. Not only would my own research team be disbanded, there's a high likelihood that Professor Nail's program would be terminated, meaning that no other young scholars would ever again receive the opportunity I did. The very future of the studium is at stake. Part of me wishes I could just drink my worries away. Sadly, I handle alcohol about as well as I handle ether. I may not be good at dealing with ether or pressure, but one thing is certain, for Professor Nail's sake, I must not fail. I cannot. Hey, calm down, Betty. So I beg you, pray help me. There is no one else who I can turn to. Give it to me, Brian. Thank you. Well, thank you. You are a shining beacon of hope for all young scholars here in Charlian. Now, let us head back to the Searcher's Meet so we can get to the task. I shall meet you back at my office. Okay? Thing is, I don't know how this is going to play out. I don't know if it's going to be the same as Shadowbringers or what. One thing is certain. It's fishing. So no matter what form it takes, it's going to be a nightmare. Oh, Ronald, I was just compiling a list of fish that I'll be needing for my research. Let me know when you're ready to get fishing. I'll fill you in on exactly what I ask. Okay? It's deliveries. So it is just like shadows. That's fine. Okay. We're jumping straight to the 80. Or do these start at 80? Yeah, they start. What am I doing? They start at 80. Of course they do. Go with the flow. They go from 80 to 90. Alright then, shall we get started? To review, I require samples of aquatic life from various bodies of water, that I might analyze them and ascertain the current state of the respective regions underwater ether current. Before I send you off to far-flung locales, I'd like to gather data from somewhere nearby. Collecting samples from a stable, controlled environment like Lavia boasts to give me a good basis with which to compare any future findings. To that end, I'd like to ask you to catch me some giant ether lice, and a fair share of them, to ensure a representative sample size. According to my preliminary research, they swim in abundance near the baroretic conduit, and have a noted fondness for gold salmon roe. So I think we can manipulate it and get do something. You may now undertake deliveries. You may now suffer. Have you had any luck? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Collectability? What the? Oh no. Does it matter? You have to let me know if it matters. Probably not. Okay, this is gonna be bad. It's a form of collectibles, and you are able to submit multiple items simultaneously. Do not result in a larger increase in esteem, but you will receive greater rewards upon delivery. So, okay, so the goal was to get 6. Alright then. Let's get started. I got it. My goodness. It took a little bit, but I was able to do it. So, yeah. Deliver! Wait. Got scripts. Now, this is a remarkable catch. Impressive specimens like these will give me even more quality data. I can't thank you enough. Yay! Deliver the items. Prove standing. Of course. Thanks to your efforts, I've been able to compile a full set of reference data. Now, we can finally get started on spots further afield. But before that, I haven't yet explained my research to you in detail, have I? Simply put, there's a certain hypothesis I want to prove. In my studies over the years, I have come to believe that much like the tide ebbs and flows with the phases of the moon, so too do the underwater ether currents that cover our entire planet. When the concentration of ether in any given current changes, aquatic life in the area grows more or less abundant, which ultimately affects the currents of the ocean itself. My hope is that if I can prove this and accurately predict these changes, we might theoretically identify the best times for fishing, and even know when it's safest to navigate the seas. Needless to say, it would be a major breakthrough, and I'm one step closer to realizing it all thanks to you. That sounds crazy. I don't know, it looks like your research is progressing well, Professor Nele. I heard about your friend here had started gathering samples for you, so I bought a few choice tomes with me that might serve to point you in the right direction. As always, you're too kind, Professor. I can't thank you enough. Don't mention it. When the time comes that your research bears fruit, that will be all the thanks I need. Your mind for developing compelling hypothesis has always impressed me. You lacked only for a skilled gleaner to help you overcome the limits of your affliction. I will be watching this new partnership of yours with great interest. Yeah, why, that actually wasn't so bad. Just having you around has already taken a huge weight off my shoulders. Up until now, Professor Nail's confidence in me only made me feel pressured to deliver something that I wasn't even sure I was capable of. But now I finally started to make some tangible progress. It's all because of you. For the first time, I feel like I may have a bright future in academia. After all. As I have a feeling that everything is going to go swimmingly, no pun intended, as long as you're by my side. Okay. He's what you're at, or dependable fisher. 63 data across the decades. 83, I mean. Oh, hello again. Did you notice the face tank by the head? I went ahead and put one of my research specimens in it. Quite the looker, wouldn't you say? Oh my god, what is it? tell you, so many things have fallen into place since you showed up. I'm having the time of my life analyzing all this data. I mean to continue my analysis of ether lice, of course, but I will task another cleaner with such mundane tasks. Instead, I'd like to make full use of your skills by having you visit an area I've long been fascinated by. I speak of the oceans surrounding Thabnair. I have reason to believe there was a significant change in the ether currents in those waters that occurred around the time of the calamity. Professor Nile shared with me some data from 20 years prior, and I would compare with current data to ascertain if I am correct. The waters around Thabnair, you see, have long been one of the focal points of Professor Nile's research. I wish to study them more to honor his work, while also using it as a starting point for my own. Before you go, however, a word of warning. Ever since the calamity, the region is notorious for shipwrecks. I realize that you are a seasoned professional, but I fully understand if you do not want to take on the risk. It should all be done. Oh, thank you. I know I could count on you. Anyhow, I'd like you to fish the same species that Professor Nele studied 20 years ago with the Gargana Rossi. Excuse me. According to the books the professor gave me, they live near the Great Runoff and are known to enjoy nibbling on strip balls. That should do it. Be safe out there, yes? Alright. We need like 6 of these or 1? Oh, there are collectibles too. Great. Alright, let's go. Dear me, what an impressive specimen. This should allow me to collect data as complete as Professor Nelly's from 2 decades ago. I can't wait to compare my findings. Wow, well, I dare say I've more than enough samples now. Pray wait for just a moment. I'm going to ask Professor Nele to take a look. It's not every day that you ask after me, Tilaka. I trust this means that your research is coming along well. Better than I could ever imagined. As a matter of fact, I was hoping to hear your thoughts on my latest findings. Comparing my data with yours from 20 years ago, I can say with confidence that the concentration of ether in the area did indeed show an increase around the time of the calamity. From these numbers, I would posit that smaller fish specimens in the area have increased in abundance several-fold. The Gargana in particular is known for protecting itself from predators by creating disturbances in the surrounding ether. A population increases such scale would undoubtedly result in a dramatic impact on its habitat. Which would go a long way to explaining the countless shipwrecks. The sheer number of these fish would surely play havoc with ships' ether compasses. Outstanding work. Of course, more data will be needed to prove your assertions as fact. Should it hold true, however, this could be a discovery of no small import. Come to think of it, I remember you showing considerable interest in my research into the seas around Thavnair. What exactly was it that drew you into my work? Oh, it's just, well, I always found the figure somewhat unnatural. I caught a hunch, but I couldn't help but feel like it warranted further research. Ah, now that's the true spirit of a scholar. Even the most epoch-making of discoveries started from observation of a single irregularity or curiosity. With that intuition and power of observation, you're gonna go places. I knew my faith in you were not misplaced. I am... You flatter me, Professor. I almost said princess, but no. Take care not to let it go to your head. Your potential will only be stifled if you allow yourself to be content with minor progress and faint praise. Of course, I will redouble my efforts and work harder than ever to deliver results. And on that note, I best get to work summarizing my findings for conclusions. If I am able to identify an explicit correlation amongst the post-calamity change and ether concentration, the explosion of the fish population, and the increase in shipwrecks, it would go a long way towards proving my theory correct. Of course, I'll be needing more fish specimens before that can happen. Fair warning, I might have to send you to even more hazardous locales. And yet, I'm sure you're up for the challenge, yes? I swear this is the most invigorated I ever felt about my research. Now, where to start? Formidable. Oh. History lesson. Hello again. I truly can't thank you enough. The samples you provided me with have allowed me to make incredible progress in my work. As it happens, I actually just decided on the next specimen I'd like to ask you to procure. You see, I have essentially completed my analysis of the currents surrounding Thavnair. I must say it's been most enlightening. Next, I would ask you to travel to a place where we have no pre-existing data. To wit, I mean to research the currents in Golemald. We've been unable to even set foot in the region until now, which means that gathering data there could lead to a truly revolutionary discovery. After all, we still have no data how the underwater ether currents there are connected with those in other regions. Alas, lacking data from years past, it won't be such a simple task to identify the changes that have occurred over the decades. I do, however, have an idea how we might get around that. The answer, my friend? It's shellfish. Studying the growth lines within their shells should allow me to draw some conclusions about how their habitat has changed over time. After carefully pursuing Professor Nilay's tomes, I've come to the conclusion that Golemald clam Gallian clams would be particularly suitable as a research specimen. You think you'd be up to the task of catching some for me? I know that place like the back of my hand. Wonderful. I'm quite confident that quality data from Galamod is what will allow my thesis to truly begin to take shape. Yes. I also read that clams exist in abundance in an area called around Camp Broken Glass, and that leeches are particularly effective in luring them up from the water's bottom. Pray you can forgive me for asking you to travel to such a perilous location. Please do whatever you must to stay safe. I'll be fine. Always have been. Alright, let's do this. I found them clams. Look at that. Almost done. Almost there. Almost there. You've done it. My colleagues will be burning with envy when they hear I attained a specimen for Galamod. How can I even begin to express my gratitude? Simple. Or you might be wondering who this is. My research has been progressing so well of late that I brought on a few of my students to serve as assistants to help me analyze all this data. At any rate, I cannot thank you enough for braving such hostile environs for the sake of my life's work. No one in my field has had the chance to attain substantial data from Galamod until now. It would be no understatement to say your contribution is heroic. Historic, I mean. Needless to say, this puts even more pressure on me to deliver with my thesis. Oh dear, my stomach's starting to feel queasy just thinking about it. Would you believe you're the talk of the studium? Even the senior faculty can scarcely wait to hear what you are able to glean about the ether currents of Galamod. Professor, yes, it's all thanks to Ronald here. Without his aid, I could never have procured this most invaluable specimen. Indeed, truly, I have not seen a partnership between scholar and gleaner bear such fruit so swiftly in a very long time. Oh, that's right. Speaking of gleaning, I meant to tell you about everything I learned from the clams you bought. I'm pleased to report that analyzing garland clams appear to have been the right call. Examining their growth lines, I'm able to find specimens as old as 97 years, giving me almost a full century of data to analyze. By far the most interesting thing I've noticed so far is the reverse correlation between the ether levels near Thavnir and those in Galamod. That is to say, over periods of time when the ether concentration was high near Thavnir and low in Galamod. The reverse was also true. Let's see, that bit of evidence seemed to corroborate your hypothesis that the planet's ether currents move in tandem with each other. Should you manage to collect data from more regions, still, I suspect you may very well be able to accurately predict changes in the fish population across the world. This could have remarkable implications for the future of the fishing trade. I was thinking the very same, Professor. Nothing would give me greater joy than if my research were to bring about a tangible improvement in people's lives. Before meeting you, I never dreamed I would make it this far. But now I feel more competent than ever. I will be able to prove my hypothesis one day. Why, I can almost see my completed thesis in my mind's eye, but I can't afford to get too complacent just yet. The most important work remains to be done. Uh-huh. I am pleased to see that all is progressing well, and yet do not be surprised if there comes a time when Delio's resolve as a researcher is tested. A time when he is forced to consider what is that truly drives him to engage in his work. For such times come to all scholars, no matter how naturally gifted they may be. I wouldn't know, I'm an adventurer. Finding him at an impasse. Can I trust you to lend him your support when it is needed most? It would mean the world to him. And to me, of course. But I still wouldn't know. I'm an adventurer. Fisher. Yay. A new quest continuing the story of Etherology is now available. Okay. Wandering Whale. Excuse me. Thanks to your most selfless contributions, I draw closer and closer to proving my hypothesis correct. Other gleaners have also been helping me by continuing to find specimens for me in calmer waters. But I will gather data from further and further afield, which is, of course, where you come in. Well, I can go to the end of the universe if you need me to. Just saying. Professor. Baroness, it's not like you to get so excited. What is the matter? But I haven't introduced you to yet. This is Baroness, one of my new research assistants. She's been a great help in analyzing all the data we've collected. I appreciate the vote of confidence, but this is no time for pleasantries. A whale has somehow wandered its way into Scholar's Harbor. The harbor master has requested that you come and assess the situation with all haste. Oh dear. I suppose we'd best be in a hurry then. My apologies, but it seems our work will have to wait until later. In the meanwhile, would you accompany me to the harbor? Your insight into the situation could prove bad. Did you say a whale? As in... Oh, wait. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, I'm gonna smack someone with my fishing rod. Right. Whoa, that does. Huh? That's a bird that calls the Northern Seas home. It's not especially rare to see them off the coast, but I've never heard of one coming so close to land as this. It's so strange. It doesn't appear to be wounded, nor have there been any notable storms of late. Whatever might have caused it to veer so far off its normal course. What indeed? At any rate, we need to move it to one of our facilities and ensure that it's kept safe while we tend to its wounds. May have and study it more. I suppose we should check its ether levels as well. Ready a team for me, Aberrance? Of course. This may be quite the undertaking. My apologies, but our project will have to wait a while longer. Let's reconvene at Searchers Meet and discuss the matter further. Weird. That was a whale. And now it's gone. Dun, dun, dun. Where is it? Where's the fish? Where's the fruit? Oh, hello there. I'm very sorry for keeping you waiting. We just finished tending to the creature's ailments and doing some preliminary analysis. As we suspected, the whale hasn't sustained any major injuries. However, it does seem to be suffering from severe ether sickness and is highly disoriented as a result. Needless to say, I can sympathize. The creature's ether levels were also cause for concern, which would explain why it wound up somewhere so far from its usual habitat. That said, we're still none the wiser as to what caused all this. How goes it? Oh, and Ronald. What a pleasant surprise. I've heard all about your predicament with the wayward whale. Master Critter, to what do I owe the pleasure? I was simply hoping to pick your brain about something that I imagine is related to your line of work. Around the same time, your larger-than-life friend wandered into the harbor. Veritable legion of fish washed ashore, and Yedlamade, they're the experimental etherite. That sounds too similar to be a coincidence. Curious behavior by aquatic life has been known to important natural disasters. Yes, this strikes me as very much related to my studies. That said, nothing I have gleaned thus far has suggested that ether currents can change so drastically as to inflict nearby creatures with ether sickness. All I have observed suggests that the currents of the planet follow a simple and regular rhythm, not unlike the tides. Indeed, the entirety of my research up until now has been focused on probing that point. There has been a sudden disturbance in the underwater ether currents, then it will take some time to determine the cause. I also need to attend to the whale. Oh, when will I have time to return to my thesis? As for the whale, the Stunium has already announced that it will be dispatching a vessel to research ether currents in the seas near Charlotte. It won't benefit any of us if such incidences continue to occur after all. If we wish to investigate the link between the two events, as Master Quiddle suggested, then perhaps we should pay a visit to Bad there. An astute suggestion. You can recruit the help of one of our colleagues over there, or wait a minute, I believe you have the perfect man for the job right here. Hey, she's got a whatchamacallit earring. Sure, I'll go there. As generous and dependable as ever, yes. I knew you'd be up for the task. I would accompany Ronald. You would? When was the last time you even ventured outside the stadium's grounds? That's not important. Ronald has risked life and limb to help me with my research. I can't just keep leaving all the hard work to him. Well, that's the idea. Professor, going to Thavner means you would have to travel via the Ether Ring, or by ship. Not that you'd handle that any better. You don't have to tell me that. Still, time is of the essence. Besides, I'll never be truly respected as a researcher if I don't go out and get my hands dirty from time to time. I have let my fears rule me for far too long. Today is the day I conquered it. It's clear you're not going to change your mind. At least try not to cause Ronald too much trouble. Yes. Ah, did you mention it? I haven't consulted you on the matter, Ronald. Do you mind if I join you this time? You can. Fantastic. In next case, I shall see you in Yalman. Sure. Oh, Ronald, is that you? You know this fella? The poor man was so ill. I thought he might die. I'd not have believed anyone could suffer from such severe ether sickness if I hadn't seen it myself. Glad you weren't here to see me immediately after I arrived. It was even less pretty a sight than what you witnessed in the etherite plasma back in Charlie. Bad? What the? Don't even get me started on the most ghastly visions I saw. Countless replicas of myself dancing and singing and spinning and spinning, spinning. Oh, the spinning. Please make it stop. I'd suggest you lie down for a while still, friend. It wasn't so long ago that you were convulsing on the ground, spitting up some ghastly blue. Bile. My fault. You are right, my friend. My apologies for making you worry so. Truly sorry about this, Ronald. Might you be so kind as to ask around why I rest here a bit more? Sure. What are we asking for? Go. Now that you mention it, there was one thing out of the ordinary earlier today before the fish appeared. The river that runs here from the shroud of the Smagha was swelling like, well, the seawater flowed back into the river, and some say they saw it carrying fish deep, deep into the woods. So it just reversed itself? I'd never seen anything like it. Entire schools of fish suddenly washing up ashore. There were so many you couldn't see a single grain of sand. Our fishers have their hands full trying to clean up the mess as we speak. Troublingly, we have no idea what caused it. It's not as if anything ominous occurred that to portend such an event, why the night before was peaceful as always. the full moon shining bright in the sky. Ooh. The moon. That's probably what it is. That's the disruption, isn't it? I mean, 85 is when it ends. You think this is a lot of fish? Well, there they are right there. You should have been here earlier. This is a massive improvement, believe me or me. No time to rest though. If they start rotting, the stench alone will be enough to make the whole town ill. What especially bizarre is that these fish normally stay away from land altogether, save for when they go up rivers to lay their eggs, that is. Anyway, I've never seen or smelled anything like it in my life, and I hope I never do again. Fishes, you smelly fish. 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 My apologies for making you go alone, friend. I still can't stand up straight, but I feel much better than when I arrived. Tell me, were you able to learn anything of interest from the townspeople? Kinda. The fish are smelly. A full moon the night before and a strong tide flowing up into the river. It would seem this is what we call a tidal bore. The fact that these fish are typically not seen near the coast is strangely representative of our whale problem as well. No, this cannot be weird coincidence. The matter of these fish that were supposedly carried upstream into the woods intrigues me as well. Assuming they're still alive, they will provide much more useful data than those rotting corpses on the beach. If we were to analyze them and find them in a similar etheric state as the whale and Charlene, we could safely conclude that both events were caused by the same or at least a similar phenomenon. Terribly sorry to appear to you again, but could you go catch those fish for me? They might very well be the key to solving this mystery. For the fisherman's description of swimming upstream, you said? I suggest we are looking for Alarai salmon. So, those leeches you used on the clams and garlemald should serve you well. Again, here. Okay, so he wants me to catch one fish. So be it. Got it first. I loathe to impose, but you must go into the woods and catch it. Okay. That's all he's saying. Okay. Have the fish. Oh, thank the gods. And thank you, my friend. I would have hated to go home with nothing but the memory of my worst bout of ether sickness ever. I'm happy to report that I also made some progress myself. I had a word with the alchemist who helped me. It turns out they have a keen interest in ether as well. We had an exchange of views that was most stimulating. I may not have been able to do much while here, but I'm glad I made the effort to leave studying for once. Now, it's time we return so I can make use of this new knowledge and analyze the samples you so kindly wheeled in for me. Alas, we may not need to use that god-awful experimental etherite to travel back. An etherite is still an etherite. Heavens have mercy. Good luck. You know he's gonna be puking all over the place. Bam, 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 bam. I can't even rock in this chair anymore. It's so flimsy and horrible. Good to see you returned. Needless to say, the trip was a rough one for me. Thankfully, it wasn't nearly as uncomfortable as that dreadful experiment on Aetherite. I'm just about finished analyzing the fish you caught in that air. As expected, their ether levels are almost identical to those of the wayward whale. So you believe that a sudden change in the concentration of ether in them and the nearby currents caused them to completely alter their behaviors? Precisely. That said, the change was of such magnitude that I would struggle to explain it with my initial hypothesis of etheric tides. On the contrary, if such sudden changes are possible, then I may have to reconsider my premise altogether. Moreover, we can't safely return the whale to the sea until we know precisely what is at the root of this problem. Like the tidal or hold the answer? Is it not connected to the ebb and flow of the tide? Yes, I do remember considering that you share when you share the people's tales with me. If we post that the underwater ether currents are affected by the moon, much as the tide itself is, then any sudden change in the moon's state would naturally affect underwater ether levels as well. Recent changes in the moon. By the scholar, that's it. The destruction of Zodiac would have freed an unfathomable amount of ether from within the moon. It would only it would be only logical if this had an impact on the underwater ether currents. If this is the explanation, my initial theory may yet be viable, with this recent outpouring of ether being the exception that proves the rule. We will need to watch closely of any similar incidences in the near future. So because of Zodiarc's destruction, the moon just was like, have all this ether, and now it's messing everything up. Or regulating it to the way it wants to be. Word has it that you braved the journey by Aetherite to do some field work at that area. Did you find other adventures there? Yeah, the world is falling apart. I see. A word of advice, if I may. Any researcher worth his salt must be prepared to rethink and reevaluate their theories when presented with a new evidence. Have you given any thought to how you might adapt yours? My initial theory was, to a degree, predicted, predicted on the existence of Zodiac. Now that he is no more, I am not entirely sure how we might. Unless we could. Yes, that's it. We could examine a species altogether more ancient, from a time when the heavens were free of Zodiac, other entities of higher etheric concentration. Professor, please, there's no time for idle jests. I am being perfectly serious. Why, I have a complete confidence that Ronald here will be able to find what we require. I do not doubt his skills, but even the best of gleamers would struggle to find specimens of species that doubtless died out ages ago. Oh, your low paper friend is more than up to the task, isn't that right, Ronald? Now that's the spirit. A good scholar must consider every possible option, even those that might seem impossible. Keep pondering the matter, and I have no doubt you'll arrive to an answer ere long. I mean, there's this, but is it wise to go there? Fishing fish time forgot. Oh, hello there. I've been racking my brain on how to come up with new ideas, so that's nothing's come to me this far. It's not because you're asking for the impossible. For you guys. No matter how I ponder, I keep coming back to the same thought. I have to get my hands on some species from a time before Zodiac came to be. I simply can't accept that all the work we have put into confirming my theory might all amount to naught in the end. You know what? Give me any idea you got, no matter what. No matter how outlandish it seems. Please, Ronald, I'm enamored. You'd be surprised at what I can do. Oh, but wait, do you really mean it? As a scholar, I would love to probe deeper into the details exactly how you mean to do this. This is hardly time for idle chatter. If you could indeed procure this sample for me, I beg you, please do it. Why, this could very well be the solution to what I thought an insurmountable problem. Ideally, I would examine an ancient specimen that shares some common traits with creatures that still exist today. Reading through Professor Nele's tomes, I remember thinking that a species called Asmaragos would be perfect. Okay. I do not know where you mean to find them, but I wish you safety and good fortune in your journey. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, we could just go to the first also and find a fish. Wouldn't it? No. Because everything there would be different. Alright, with that, we're gonna go fishing again. Okay. Boards. Oh, it even says it's Sky Spoonmore. Use that. It wasn't that bad. I got it very quickly, thankfully. Are my eyes to be believed an actual Smaragords? And it's even more impressive than anything I saw in my books. I know not how you accomplished this, Ronald, but you have my eternal gratitude. So good. Ah, Ronald, I just finished my preliminary analysis of the Smaragords. And needless to say, it has proven truly fascinating. Incidentally, I recently overheard some of the senior members of the faculty discussing the days before the world was sundered. This led me wondering just how far back you traveled. I have long heard rumors of a collective of goblin scientists who were attempting to traverse the fabric of time itself. To be honest, I always thought it a mere jest. But is it possible you used such a method to journey into the past yourself? But I will not ask you to reveal your secrets. Not now. You have provided me with exactly what I need to break this impassive in my research. This impasse. In my research, and I must seize the opportunity. At any rate, examining the relative state of the scales, it appears quite evident that the levels of ether in the underwater current fluctuated regularly, even in those pre-zodiac days. That said, the shift in concentration appears much gentler compared to the present day. I suspect that the inflated ether levels of the moon caused by the present zodiac are the key to explaining this change. Put simply, these recent incidences have a manifestation of ether levels returning to how they once were so very long ago. Yep. Frankly, I should be elated. This effectively proves my hypothesis correct. However, something does not sit right with me. I feel like I must do more than just identify what is happening. How can I sit around in here in my office poring over specimens and tomes while these poor sea creatures are suffering? The next whale might very well come ashore to its doom like the fish down there. I heard that. Well, thank you for coming, Professor Nia. I'm most pleased to say that with Ronald's help, I believe I'll finally be able to finish my thesis. Is this to say that you truly were able to attain a specimen from ancient times? Impressive. Yes, most impressive indeed. You'll be told, the senior facility of the Studium have been aware of this form of travel for some time now. Sadly, as much as I argued your case, I was strictly forbidden for granting you access to it. Fortunate you are to have Ronald at your side. With your diligence and aptitude and his unparalleled gleaning skills, I am expecting greater and greater things from your thesis. I knew it. So if I am promoted to full professorship, I might gain access to that knowledge as well. And I must work even harder towards that goal. So they had the means to travel to the past, apparently. And yet, at the same time, I find myself with a dilemma. Is it not selfish of me to focus entirely on my own research at a time like this? Is it not my duty as a scholar to help in a more concrete manner? Very astute questions, those, and questions in which you must find the answer on your own. Of course, none would object if you were to publish your findings. You've done more than enough to support up-and-coming researchers at the Studium, and your work would doubtless prove a fine starting point for any who wish to explore the subject further. There are plenty of academics who are driven wholly by their own curiosity, who devote their entire lives to their studies and research for their own sake. However, there is also a demand for another type of researcher, one who uses their findings to seek out tangible solutions to the problems of our world. The research has brought you face to face with innocent creatures in peril, and united you with a brave companion who has traveled to the edge of the world and beyond for you. It is little surprise that you might find new motivation from their presence. Yet at the end of the day, it's your choice to make. You must decide what inspires you most as a scholar. That is all I can say. As always, Professor Eli has given me much to ponder. Up until now, I'd simply enjoy solving the mysteries of the world through my research. But now, have I began to realize there may be more to it than that. Forgive me, but I would like to consider the matter further. Might I be able to count on you again? Your aid again, once my mind is made up? I swear. I feel there are no limits to what I might achieve as long as you are by my side. Fantastic Fisher. Got that right. Don't you forget it. Pastures. Pastures? Ah, Ronald. Always a pleasure to see you. I fear I haven't quite made up my mind regarding the issues we discussed last time. Please don't be overly concerned. I fully intend to finish writing my thesis for the upcoming conference. At the same time, I can't stop thinking about what Professor Nile said. In fact, I was just thinking I'd head to Tranquility to be alone with my thoughts for a while. Would you mind joining me for a bit later? An exchange of ideas might do me well. I mean, you could. Oh, I know what that place is. Okay. I mean, this is the last quest. And I still have time. I can do this quest I can do the final quest, have everything done for fishing, and the nightmare will be over for a little bit. So I can't. I mean, if I was doing fishing for fun, it's one thing, but having to constantly catch multiple fish just to get that one fish that you need for a quest, which even then, it doesn't take that long, but it just... Oh. Thank you for coming. Do you recall how Professor Nalau encouraged me to consider what path would most inspire me? I was thinking it over, it occurred to me. Had I not met you, I doubtless would have continued to use my ether sickness as an excuse to stay cooped up in the studium forever. Likely I would have succumbed to the weight of expectations and given up on my research entirely. Please hold. Thanks to you, however, I was able to obtain the data I had so long sought, and now my thesis is nearly complete. For that, you have my eternal thanks. And yet, I am now stuck with the profound feelings that I might do more. I must seek even greater heights. I suspect my colleagues would laugh at me out of the room if they heard this, but I have a mind to attain data from the moon itself. If I could only get my hands on that, I am confident that I could find a way to stabilize the ether currents, and in doing so, save the poor creatures of the sea from their suffering. And I'm just smiling. I'm like, yes, there's no time to rest on my laurels. There's so much more to be done. Of course, I'll hardly be able to accomplish this on my own. What do you say? Will you lend me your help one last time? Of course. I promise you this will be the last request I make of you. As precisely what I would have you procure. This is where it gets a bit complicated. Normally I would reference the tomes of Van Naumunen, but as one might expect, none of them cover the ecosystem of the moon. Perhaps you might seek advice with those who reside in Miralomaron. If anyone can tell you what's worth catching, I suppose it would be them. In the meantime, I shall focus on writing my thesis. I cannot wait to see what sort of exotic specimen you find for me this time. Okay. Why, hello there, Ronald. Whatever brings you here today? You don't say. That strikes me as a rather curious thing to be researching, but to each their own, I suppose. At any rate, I do believe the most representative species of the aquatic ecosystem here is a fish we call the lunar lamenter. They're quite plentiful in the waters of Lalafell. They're known to have a fondness for gray worms, which we suspect is one reason they taste so atrocious. Believe me, you wouldn't find any of our chefs complaining if you take home your fair share. That said, it's most surprising to hear that the destruction of Zodiac has impacted your world, so do be careful down there, yes? We have our fish. We did it. We did it. We got the fish, but where I had the fish from. Ugh. I don't even know what that is. They call it they call it the frozen like something, and I'm like, fuck, I had to put my fishing line in that. And then I had to touch the fish that came out of it when I caught it. Ew. Ew. Anyway. You're back. I'd love nothing more than for you to regale me with the tales of the moon, but for that, do I smell what I think I smell? You sure do. Incredible. So this is the sort of creature that dwells in the lunar seas. Can't wait to dig in and start examining it. Well, there's no telling until I see the data. I'm quite confident that this discovery will allow me to revise my theory and complete my thesis. I'll be making my presentation at the phenomenon, but to be honest, I've never been good at talking in front of the senior faculty. Might you be so kind as to come sit in the audience? Just knowing that I had a friend among the audience would go a long way to putting my heart at ease. Normally, only the faculty and students are allowed to attend such events, but I'll have a word with the administrators. Given all you've contributed to my research, I can see no reason that you shouldn't be permitted to attend. Yay. I wouldn't know. I mean, sure. Be happy to attend. You must be Professor's guest. Please go right in. I do believe your friend's presentation is about to get underway. Sorry. Thank you for assembling here today. Everyone, I'm Lalafell, an associate professor here at the Faculty of Etherology, and today I would like to present some recent findings from my research on ether currents. Relax. Just relax. Relax. Just relax. Pretend no one's in the room and you're talking to yourself. My presentation is entitled Ether Tide. When the waxing and waning of ether levels and underwater currents. Simply put, my hypothesis was thus. The world's underwater ether ebb and flow in tandem. When the concentration of ether drops in one area, it rises in another. This phenomenon repeats itself periodically. Long did I believe this was so, but never was I able to accumulate sufficient data to prove it for certain. This all changed recently thanks to the talent of a truly remarkable gleaner who risked life and limb to gather the samples I needed. In the course of my research, however, I also discovered many things which I had never imagined at the outset. First and foremost among these was the ether Zodiac exerted upon those self-same currents. Now, as you all know, Zodiac is no more. As such, ether levels have temporarily fluctuated across our entire star as the etheric state of our world gradually readjusts to how it was in the days of yore, before Zodiac came into being. Having had the fortune recently to analyze some samples obtained from the lunar surface, it has become apparent that this fluctuation in ether levels was at its most dramatic during a full moon. We have reason to suspect that the recent incident with the wayward whale was also caused by the self-same phenomenon. In other words, a sudden change in the local ether levels caused it to suffer from symptoms akin to severe ether sickness. And then he'll just go on afterwards. Oh, needless to say, this would all be all mere speculation if it were not corroborated by concrete data. To that end, kindly turn to page 14 in the booklets I have handed out and take a moment to pursue the chart on that page. Quite fascinating. Many scholars stubbornly stick to their initial convictions despite the circumstances, but you have clearly taken even the most recent developments into consideration in fleshing out your thesis. Admirable indeed. You are too kind, Professor, and yet there is more I would share. Utilizing my own findings in combination with some alchemical techniques I've learned from my colleagues in Thavnair, I do believe I have crafted a spell that might help to stabilize the underwater ether currents. More so than my academic findings, I believe this to be my greatest accomplishment. Isolating the relationship between the moon and the underwater ether currents was an important first step, no doubt, but helping those suffering creatures will be of far greater import in the end. Our planet is currently in a state of transition. I suspect the imbalance in ether levels will continue for quite a while still, and so I intend to do everything in my power to minimize the effects of this on both beast and man until our etheric environment stabilizes and returns to normal. Thank you. We shall inform you of your evaluation in due time. In the meantime, pray continue to attend to that poor beast in the harbor. We wish you the best of luck. Thank you, Professor. Hey, it's the whale. Oh, it's just me out there watching a whale. I'm just sitting there watching a whale. There you are. I simply had to tell you before anyone else. My colleagues couldn't stop praising my thesis, and to say I could never have gotten to this day without your help would be an understatement. Where can I get those clothes? Not only have I secured more funding to continue my research, but I also been promoted to a full-fledged tenured professor. I simply cannot believe that the day has come that I can wear this prestigious gown. Why, I dreamed of this since the very first day I set foot in the studium. That looks good on you. Oh, you're far too kind. I still have a long way to go before I'd be worthy of this guard in the way that, say, Professor Nali is. I always believed in Tenno's potential, but I dare say he would have been hard-pressed to fulfill it, were it not for his fortuitous meeting with you, Ronald. For that, I too owe you my thanks. Oh, this is neither here nor there, really, but I received some rather delightful news recently from the Faculty of Medicine. I've seen the professor there who was researching methods for treating the whale has developed an experimental medicine that can lessen the effects of ethereal sickness. Even more fortunately, it is said to work even better on men than the beast. Yes, but this new medicine at my disposal finally take responsibility for my own fieldwork and stop forcing generous gleaners such as yourself to travel in my stead. Just think of all the places I'll go, distant lands, the open sea, why maybe even the moon. I simply can't wait to really stretch my legs and explore the world. And with that, I'd best be off. But this isn't farewell, not by a long shot. I have no doubt our paths will cross again somewhere upon some distant sea. And thank you once again for everything, my friend. Bye, fish. Bye, giant whale. And with that, this is the end. I'm standing here in this new gown, but to be honest, it still hasn't all sunk in. Congratulations, you have come far indeed, and you've earned every bit of it through your diligence and dedication. I'm glad I am for it. For now, I've seen you realize the potential I always knew you had. I can finally retire from with my heart at ease. Retire? What are you saying? No need to act so surprised. I've been considering it for quite some time now. I'm no spring chicken, and there's little reason for me to cling to my position when promising researchers like you wait in the wings. Of course, I will continue to share my experiences with you if you so desire. But finding that which most inspires you and pursuing it with all your body and soul, this is something you must do for yourself. I've always imparted. I have already imparted all I can. You are able to find this in yourself, in no small part, through your chance encounter with Ron. I was happy to be there for you along the way, but I dare say you will fare well enough without me. The future of etherology is bright indeed, as long as young talents like yourself continue your research here. And so, very much look forward to hearing of your many achievements as I enjoy my golden years. And if you ever need a conversation, pray visit, that we might muse about the mysteries of the world, not as teacher and student, but as colleagues and friends. That would be delightful, Professor. I could not have asked for a greater parting gift than your vote of confidence. Thank you once again, Ronald. I will be continuing my research here at the Studium, so do stop by whenever you would care to talk etherology with a friend. Likewise, I look forward to hearing even more about your adventures in the far-flung lands you've been exploring. And perhaps if you happen to come across any exotic species of fish, you could snag one or two for me? Just for old time's sake? Oh, I'll take this one. Nice. Last it's done. Contributor. You've completed all and became a master fisher. Keep an eye out for other studiums. Yeah, that's good. This is actually good that I got this done tonight. Because before I went to bed. Because now, with that done, the rest will be easy. The fishing one is the one that takes the longest. The others take like an hour and a half or so. This took 3 hours to do, pretty much. No. I think probably even longer. Let me start the first one. 10:30. It was created at 10:39. Yeah, 10:30. and it's now 10:40. 12. Yeah, it took 2 hours. 2 hours and 40 minutes. Pretty much. Or 2 hours. 2 hours and 20. Anyway, that's it now. I gotta get some sleep and stuff. So, good night, everyone.